Hi everyone, welcome to issue number 5 of the Cryptocademy newsletter. My name is Justin Bennett, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the total crypto market cap chart. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and VeChain. The crypto market cap has been pulling back recently. It's something I've mentioned on Twitter for the last week. So I'm going to show you my exact plan for these markets, how low they could go, and by when. And before we get started, I do want to say I haven't been feeling too well this week, so I'm going to try to keep this a little bit shorter this time, but hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a good idea of my thoughts on where these markets could be going. So first up, we have the total crypto market cap. And I've mentioned this channel before, the one you see right here, all right, the smaller one. And in fact, you know what, I'm going to color this in a different color so that we can distinguish it from the larger channel. All right, so basically we have two channels here. The smaller one right now is coming under pressure today. All right, so you can see where the market is testing this support level right around 1.6 trillion. Now, you may be thinking, well, it's holding above support right now, so all is well. But if we move into the intraday timeframes, even the 8-hour, you can see what's happened recently. All right, we got a break below this level. So right now, 1.6 is resistance. And furthermore, looking at the daily time frame, you can see this 1.6 horizontal level. All right, notice back here it was resistance, support, resistance once again, and then look how many times it served as support recently. And yesterday's candle did close below that area. So right now, this area right around 1.6, that's the key battle zone for this market. So if we do see the market close below this area today, there is a good chance that over the next week or so through the end of March, we get a move down toward 1.3 trillion. Now you'll remember this was support from the latest correction, all right, and it also intersects with that larger channel bottom, all right? So this bigger channel that's been intact since late last year, there's a confluence of support right around 1.3 trillion. And confluence just means the intersection of two or more things. So in this case, we have a channel support and we also have a key horizontal level right around 1.3. So again, right now there's a battle going on at 1.6. But if we do see the market rotate lower for the rest of this month, keep a close eye on 1.3 trillion because I do think that's going to offer a lot of support as we head into April. All right, my base case for the next few weeks, I do think April is going to continue to be weak. We could see a bounce over the weekend as Friday's expirations trail off. All right, so we could see a move lower tomorrow and then a bounce over the weekend, followed by more weakness next week down here towards support, and then a very green April. Okay, I am expecting April to have a lot of good stuff in store, but the rest of March could be rocky. So just to sum up, I think over the next 24 hours going into Friday, we could see some more weakness here, followed by a bit of a weekend bounce, and then perhaps some more weakness as we end March, and then a green April. All right, so that's just my guess. There's no guarantees. I don't know where the market's going, but that is what I think is going to happen. So moving over to Bitcoin next, we have a pretty similar story, and that's no surprise because Bitcoin is the largest crypto. Now we have this channel, which I've talked about recently. You can see where the bottom extends from some of these lows last year, and the top intersects with these two recent highs. So in my opinion, what's happened right now is this correction back here was very short. In my opinion, it was a little bit too short. We should have gotten something more like this, and then a move down here toward the 42 area, perhaps high 30s. But instead we got this rally. And so right now we're kind of seeing the second leg of this correction. But in my opinion, all of this through here, if we do get a rotation lower, is really just one big pullback. So even though it may look scary, in my opinion, this could reset the chart for much higher levels later this year. Because if you follow this up and you look even just toward the summer, all right, and we extend these levels up, you can see that clearly we have levels like $100,000 plus at the top of this channel later this year. So if we do see a retest of channel support, that opens up the upside to $100,000 plus for later this year for Bitcoin. Now, if we look at the daily time frame, you can see something similar again where we had a breakdown yesterday below that 53,000 area. All right, so notice how it served as support back here. And so right now, this 53,000 region, maybe just above it, is serving as resistance. Now, we do have some support at today's low based on these highs. Okay, so around today's low, if we see Bitcoin move below this area, below today's low, there's a good chance we see another run at 47. This was the big support area that we saw last time. All right, if you'll remember, we had the correction lower, and then we had this big green candle above 47, and look how 47 held as support. All right, we had multiple days that tested this area, never closed below it, and that was the start of this rally. So 47 is going to be one to keep an eye on. If we see a move below that, look toward the 42 area. This is what I've been talking about now for the last couple of weeks. There is a ton of confluence around 42 to where I think if we do get a retest of that, that could offer a significant bounce as we go into April. So the timing of all this could go something like this, something similar to what I just mentioned for the total crypto market cap, where we see weakness into Friday. We could even see a drop all the way down here to 47, followed by a weekend bounce. Okay, and it could be a sharp bounce where everybody thinks the correction is over. And then after the weekend, we do get that final push to end out March down here toward 42. Now, of course, we could see 47 hold. And again, that's just based on how strong it was back here during the latest dip. But when we just look at this chart and this long-term channel that's been in place, I do think that a retest of 42 would be incredibly healthy for this market because it would help to reset the chart for another move just like we had back here. We get a retest of 42, we can then run up toward $100,000 plus later this year. So the only thing that would negate this, in my opinion, would be a close back above the $53,000 area. So if we were to see the market come up and close the day above this area again, that could signal that Bitcoin wants to move higher and push back toward the 62 area. So really it's a matter of whether or not Bitcoin can recover this range, or if we see a move below today's low and a push down to 47 first. If this happens, then that scenario where we get a final push lower into Friday, a bounce over the weekend, and then some more weakness to finish out March, followed by a green April, is very much in play. So that's what I'm expecting. We'll see what happens here. But right now, I do expect some more weakness from Bitcoin as we finish out March. Ethereum finally moved lower recently from this consolidation that we saw between the 1720 and the 1870 area. You can see where we had several days, weeks in fact, between these areas. We even had this move above the 1870 area. And that was the same time that Bitcoin made a new all-time high. Ethereum didn't quite do it, but it did break above this area and then close back below it. And that was the signal that some more weakness was coming, including the fact that this channel right here, similar to what Bitcoin did, we had a breakdown on this channel. And I talked about this last week. I said as long as we were below that $1,900 area, Ethereum was vulnerable. And sure enough, we did get a close below this 1720 to 1730 area. And so far that region is serving as resistance. And also similar to Bitcoin, no surprise because we know the two like to move in tandem, we have a larger channel that right now the confluence of support comes in right around 1200. I actually talked about this a couple weeks ago where we have the bottom of this long-term channel, all right, from these two lows down here. And we also have this descending channel off of these highs. And you can see how the lower portion of this channel cuts right across the top of those candles. It also connects with this low. So right now the confluence of support is right around 1200. There is a good chance that we see a move down here toward that area on March 31st. If you'll notice, if I draw a vertical level there, you can see right on March 31st, maybe April 1st, we do have the intersection of all of this. So right around the end of this month at $1,200. So that's one to keep an eye on. So it really all depends on what happens around 1570. So I talked about this on Twitter yesterday. I said that 1570 was the next key support as the market was coming off. And sure enough, we've had a bounce from that area. So you can see back here, 1570 was support. It was support through this area. Ethereum broke below it. And then 1570 became resistance on a daily closing basis. So right now, until Ethereum closes the day below 1570, this area is serving as support. Now, if we get a daily close below it, we could see Ethereum trend lower toward 1400. That's going to be the next key support area. You can see back here, 1400 was resistance for a long time. It then flipped to support back here. Ethereum never did close the day below $1,400. So if I had to guess what's going to happen over the next week or so, I think that we could see some more weakness on Friday as those futures expire. So we could get a sharp move lower down toward 1400, followed by a bounce over the weekend, and then some more weakness to round out March. All right, so if this were to happen, I'm going to keep a very close eye on 1200 because I definitely want to be a buyer around that area. Now, there's no guarantee that we do go that low. For all we know, this could be the low. But as of right now, given yesterday's candle and the fact that we're having trouble even retracing back to 50% of that area, I do think that Ethereum is going to move lower in the short term. All right, so in summary, 1570 is support right now. A daily close below that would open up the $1,400 area, and a close below that, of course, would take us down here toward 1200, which is that confluence of support. And just like Bitcoin, I am anticipating a green April. So I think any retest of $1,200 should give us a nice area to bounce from for a big green April back toward this area right around $1,800 and even higher. And last but not least, keep in mind too, this descending channel right here is technically a bull flag. So if we do see a retest of 1200 and a move back toward resistance, that could complete this pattern, which is a continuation pattern. All right, so this rally we saw back here, this is a continuation of that. A break above this area could send Ethereum much higher over the coming months, up toward $3,000, $4,000, etc. And last but not least, we have VeChain or VET, and this is my favorite chart by far. It's the one I spend the most time on. I've been talking about this channel, okay, on the 4-hour time frame a lot on Twitter. You can see where VET has been moving inside this channel ever since the 3.5 cent area. All right, so it started back here. We had several touches off of support and also on resistance. Now, what happened recently is notice how this high did not touch channel resistance. All right, look at the gap between these two. All right, now look at this high. What do you see? You see an even bigger gap from channel resistance. Okay, notice the gap here versus the gap right here. And this was an indication that we were about to see a break lower. Anytime you start to see movement like this, okay, that's an indication of a break lower because we're not able to get back to channel resistance. All right, and sure enough, that's what we got. We got a close below this channel right through this area. VET then had a massive run up. This was about a 14% move back to retest the bottom of that channel. But as soon as it did, we saw a sharp sell off from VET. So where are we going from here? If we look at the last few months, VET has been incredibly predictable. So ever since the December low, we've had these rallies that tend to be between 140% and 180%, followed by a pullback. Same thing right here, same distance, we then got a pullback. And guess what? Sure enough, right now, same thing. Now we're getting a pullback. So this has also carved a very well-defined trend line that intersects right with 6 cents. And if you'll remember, that 6 cent area was also the range top back here. And VET hasn't properly retested that as support. So if you'll notice back here, okay, right around 3.5 cents, this was resistance. VET broke out of this area. It then had a rounded retest back here toward 3.5 cents. And that's when it took off, forming that ascending channel. So I think we could see something very similar where we broke out from 6 back here. All right, we broke out in this area. And then we have a rounded retest back towards 6, followed by a green April. Will it happen? I don't know. Nobody does. I don't know where this market's going. But if we just look at the pattern here of what's happened since December, I think there's a very good chance that we do see that. Now, another interesting observation too is that from this December low up toward this first high, what you'll notice is that VET bounced right from the 618 fib. Okay, this is the 618 fib right here. And if we draw our fibs for this rally right here off of this trend line up toward the 3.5 cent level, you'll notice again, VET came back, retested the 618 fib area, and then bounced. So if we do the same thing right now from this latest rally, okay, from 3.5 cents up here toward the 10 cent area, guess where the 618 is? Right at 6 cents. Okay, there's a lot of confluence right there at 6. It's the previous range top, it's the 618 fib, and it's also a key trend line from the December low. So that's what I think could happen over the next week or so. I do think we could see a retest of 6 cents by March 31st. And that's something to keep an eye on too. If you'll notice these vertical lines, VET has basically been topping out around the 20th of the month, coming back and finding a bottom on the last day of the month or thereabouts. So again, same thing back here. This was actually around the 20th of the month, and then we saw the very last day right here, very near the bottom. Same at the end of January, and right now, March 31st is right at 6 cents. So if this pattern stays the same, all right, we could see VET test 6 cents and then head higher in April. And if this pattern stays the same too, a bounce from the 6 cent area could target the area between 15 and 17 cents next month. So again, guys, I could be wrong. I don't know where this market's going, but just based on the patterns, there is a lot showing us that we could see a retest of the 6-cent support area, followed by a strong bounce in April up toward the 15-cent region. And a little bit of hopium to end this video on. I posted this earlier today on Twitter, but if you actually take the same pattern, okay, the 618 fib pattern that I just showed you, and you extrapolate that out through the rest of the year, and you assume a September end, because remember, I think that the market could top out sometime around August for Bitcoin, but I do think that altcoins could top out 3 or 4 weeks after that. So that would give us sometime in September. And if you do that, all right, just this same pattern, it would give us a top somewhere around $2. Now, there's no guarantee that this pattern stays intact. We could either see a break below support, or VET could even go parabolic later this year. I wouldn't be surprised in the last month or two of this bull market to see VET go parabolic out of this pattern. But even this alone gives us an idea of VET's potential for later this year. As you can see, the top of this would come in right around $2. And I think I speak for everyone when I say that nobody would be disappointed with a $2 final target this year. So no guarantees of that, but just looking at this pattern that's been intact for the last few months, you can see the massive potential that VET has for later this year.